In the heart of the United States, nestled among rolling hills and dense woodlands, lay the small, isolated town of Elden Creek. The town was a patchwork of quaint houses, friendly faces, and the kind of stillness that could only be found in places untouched by the chaos of the outside world. However, this idyllic setting was marred by an unsettling presence that loomed at the edge of the village. An old, decrepit house known to the townsfolk as the Widow's House. It stood as a dark silhouette against the skyline, its windows like hollow eyes, watching and waiting. The origins of the house were steeped in tragedy, a tale that had been whispered from generation to generation. It all began 30 years prior when Margaret Holloway and her husband Thomas lived there. Thomas was a quiet carpenter, known for his gentle demeanor and skillful hands. Margaret, with her radiant smile and laughter, was the heart of the home. Together, they were a couple who seemed destined for a long and happy life. But fate had other plans. One fateful day, Thomas ventured into the woods to gather materials for a new project. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a warm glow on the landscape, and Margaret waved him off with a kiss, unaware that it would be the last time she would see him. Hours turned into days, and when Thomas failed to return, the townspeople organized a search party. They combed through the dense underbrush, calling out his name, but he had vanished without a trace. When they finally found him, it was under circumstances that defied explanation. Deep in the woods, they discovered his lifeless body, sprawled beneath a gnarled tree, his face twisted in an expression of horror. No one could understand how he had ended up there, and whispers of foul play began to swirl through Elden Creek like the autumn leaves that danced in the wind. Margaret was inconsolable. The grief consumed her, twisting her mind until she became a shadow of her former self. As the days turned into weeks, the townsfolk watched in horror as Margaret descended into madness. At night, her laughter echoed through the empty halls of the widow's house, alternating with fits of sorrowful weeping. She was often seen wandering the property, her eyes glazed over, speaking to the shadows as if they were her long-lost husband. "Thomas," she would call into the darkness, her voice trembling. "Where are you? I'm waiting." Then, one stormy night, just as the winds howled and the rain lashed against the windows, Margaret vanished without a trace. It was as if the house itself had swallowed her whole. Days passed, and the townsfolk searched, but she had seemingly evaporated into thin air. They soon abandoned the house, leaving it to rot and decay, believing that the spirit of Margaret Holloway lingered within its walls, forever waiting for her beloved Thomas. Years turned into decades, and the legend of the widow's curse grew. Children dared each other to approach the house, and adults avoided it as if it were a plague. The stories told of strange happenings, footsteps echoing in the attic, a woman's voice softly calling out for Thomas, and the chilling sound of a comb moving through hair in the dead of night. Elden Creek had become a town defined by its fear of the widow's house, a place where the line between the living and the dead blurred. In the present day, a curious journalist named Jake Miller arrived in Elden Creek, drawn by the allure of the supernatural and the promise of a gripping story. He had heard the whispers of the widow's curse and was determined to uncover the truth behind the legend. Ignoring the warnings of the locals, who urged him to stay away, he rented a room in the old house, eager to experience its haunting firsthand. The first night was uneventful, but as darkness fell, Jake felt an unsettling chill creep into the air. The old floorboards creaked beneath his feet, and the wind howled outside, sending shivers down his spine. He tried to dismiss the feeling, attributing it to the eerie atmosphere of the house. But as the hours wore on, he began to hear strange sounds, soft whispers that seemed to echo through the halls, footsteps in the attic, and the unmistakable feeling of being watched. Determined to investigate, Jake climbed the creaking staircase to the attic, where the air was thick with dust and the scent of mildew. It was there that he stumbled upon an old chest, its surface marred by time. Curiosity piqued, he knelt down and opened it, revealing a trove of forgotten memories. Inside lay a burned wedding photo, the faces of Margaret and Thomas barely discernible through the charred edges. Next to it, a decaying bridal gown hung limply, its once white fabric now a ghostly shade of gray. And finally, a lock of long hair tied with a red ribbon, delicate and haunting, rested at the bottom of the chest. As Jake reached out to touch the contents, a sudden chill enveloped him, and he felt a presence behind him. He turned slowly, heart racing, and came face to face with the ghostly figure of Margaret. Her long black hair cascaded around her shoulders like a dark waterfall, and her pale eyes were filled with desperation and sorrow. "Thomas," she whispered, her voice a haunting melody that echoed in the stillness of the attic. Jake froze, fear gripping him like a vice. He could feel the weight of her gaze, the anguish that radiated from her ethereal form. She reached out, her fingers trembling, and in that moment, he understood. She believed he was her lost husband. "Thomas, why did you leave me?" she cried, her voice breaking, and Jake felt a phantom hand wrap around his neck, a sensation so real it took his breath away. With a surge of adrenaline, he broke free from her grasp, stumbling backward and nearly tumbling down the stairs. He fled the house, heart pounding in his chest. The image of Margaret's sorrowful face burned into his mind. It was a haunting experience that left him mentally scarred, the echo of her desperate cries ringing in his ears. The next morning, shaken and pale, Jake packed his belongings and left the widow's house behind. He returned to the town, where the villagers noticed his distress. They gathered around him, their faces a mixture of concern and confirmation. "You saw her, didn't you?" one elder asked, her voice trembling with the weight of shared fear. "You felt her curse?" Jake nodded, unable to find the words to articulate the horror he had experienced. The villagers exchanged knowing glances, their expressions a blend of sympathy and dread. They locked the house once more, sealing it away from the world. But the haunting did not cease. At night, the sounds continued. The soft whispers of a woman carried on the wind, the sound of a comb moving through hair, and that mournful call, "Thomas, I'm still waiting." As weeks turned into months, the legend of the widow's curse grew stronger, fueled by Jake's harrowing tale. The townsfolk spoke of the house with a mix of reverence and fear, warning outsiders to stay away. Yet despite the warnings, curiosity continued to draw people to Elden Creek, eager to uncover the truth behind the chilling story. But as time went on, the house remained a silent witness to the tragedy that had unfolded within its walls. Margaret's spirit lingered, trapped in a cycle of despair, waiting for a love that had been lost to the shadows of the past. The villagers knew that the curse of the widow was not just a story. It was a reminder of the fragility of life, the pain of loss, and the haunting presence of love that transcended even death. And so, the widow's house stood, a monument to sorrow and madness, forever etched into the fabric of Elden Creek's history. The chilling whispers of Margaret Holloway would echo through the town, a ghostly reminder that some spirits never truly rest, and that love, once lost, can become a curse that binds the living to the dead.